Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Easy XP where life gets better
As we talk about it.
as we talk. Day by day.
We don't have beers this time, unfortunately.
No, we don't.
But next time we
Okay.
should grab some beers.
Not every episode gets to be a beer episode. Beer episode. I'm assuming you have thoughts. You always have fucking thoughts. People are tired of your thoughts, man.
Recent
I'm
revelations.
just kidding. Yeah, your recent revelations. You know, I could also have revelations just for that. Just to set the record straight.
Okay, you wanna go first?
Um,
This is like the weekly circle. This is like hi, my name
This is
and I have a problem.
yeah. It's like AA and cheap therapy.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what? But I actually think that's part of the reason why I talk about this stuff, because I think it is
yeah.
helpful for people.
Yes. No, it totally is. I've seen plenty of people like. Actually, people have been talking to me lately about like topics that are in our podcast. In fact, the moving out one, everyone's like, "Yo, you moved out?" And I was like, "Oh man, I get so many questions on this." I was like, "No, unfortunately not." I agree with Curtis's mindset there because I would like to, but I can't at the moment. But
People talking about the podcast, helping them.
yes.
Or is that
Well, no, my topic is Curtis cracked the code for me yesterday, and the code is we've both been fucking sad shits lately. Not shits, but I've been sad. I have you called me on my shit, and that was good, because I'm very
shitty?
I'm a very shitty person.
No.
No, my humor is very self-deprecating, so
Yeah.
I'm constantly making fun of myself to try to make other people laugh. But sometimes it kind of crosses the line. I can see that for people that it's like, hey Zach, I feel like you might actually believe that. It's like, yeah, sometimes I do. Maybe I don't know.
Because it's not that it's not funny, because
Yeah,
it is funny.
Making fun of yourself is some of the funniest humor, but
Yeah.
it's when people know the context of my life and your life and other
It's
people's
when
life
you're like
kinda.
actually in a shitty place.
That people start to go, ooh, like, oh, he made a suicide joke, and it's not. I'm not saying I do that. Well, I did that right before the podcast. Actually, that was a clear joke. I'm not like that. Anyways, getting back to cracking the code. Curtis cracked the code for me yesterday, in a way.
I see the Matrix, guys.
He saw.
I
He
found
sees
it.
the fucking zeros and ones, and he's like,
I took both pills.
you see a woman in a red dress, he sees the fucking zeros and ones.
It's, it's black and blue. It's not gold and
Yeah,
white. It's black and blue.
I disagree. But
It's what's the sound one?
Yanni and Laurel.
It's it's Yanni. Wait, it's both. It's both.
You
It's
shut up!
both.
I'm trying to have a recent revelation. Okay, so Curtis cracked the code.
Yanni.
We've been dealing with some stuff. I don't even know how much we want to go in depth on this stuff. We're dealing with
Conveniently, him and I and my other friend. Actually, a lot of people are
a lot
going
of
through
people,
some rough times right now. Clearly, I'm
relationship
sure-
stuff, life stuff. Maybe we don't have to get. We don't need to get into specifics.
Okay.
But I've been getting over a breakup and stuff and things like that. And I have my good days, my bad days, but like, when I get into those like the headspaces of just like shitting on myself, like you called me yesterday and you like called me on my shit because I was just literally lying in bed and being like, fuck me, man, like fuck life. And I just had a lot of shit at once. I got a ticket for fucking having my phone out when I was trying to end a call. Someone was calling me constantly. There's just a lot of crap. I have school coming up, so it was just a lot at once. But anyways, I was getting in the negative headspace. We were talking, and I was just like, just talking very negatively. And like, you called me on shit, and you're like, dude, you're handling this worse than other people that have like a worse situation, and all these things. But what you said that like cracked the code for me. Or it was like 3 things. Or you said 2 things, and then the third thing is I listened to Wu-Tang Clan. That helped me.
That wasn't me. I didn't.
No,
tell
he
him.
didn't tell me to listen to
didn't tell
Wu-Tang.
him to
I
listen
listened to Wu-Tang Clan, Protect Your Neck. You should check that song out. And I was like, I'm fucking pumped. Let's go fuck up life. So one was you can't dwell on the past. You just really have to live in the moment, which the way I'm saying it kind of sounds like, no shit, But like, it's so easy to get stuck on like, this is how things used to be. And things were good in that moment, and you get these nostalgia goggles, like beer goggles,
Rose tinted
glasses, and your brain, when it's going through some sort of like turmoil, it just starts to look back at all like the good moments, and it doesn't look back on like the moments that things didn't work. So I've acknowledged like relationships and stuff don't last forever. Like I'm open to the idea like things end, you know, and then there's always more people or things to do. But it's still in the moment, and with how much this has hurt, it's like I've been so trapped in that, like, things used to work, things used to be good, things, and you know, I'm just thinking about all the cute moments you have with a person, but it's also like, you know, there was moments like you're just getting under each other's nerves, or you're not as like trusting, or you're having issues with something they're doing, and you ignore those moments and you just put on those rose tinted glasses. So like you telling me, like, you might be able to like articulate it better, but like the being in the moment kind of thing, like the everything is just happening and you just gotta go with the flow, kind of like there's no stopping time, like you're just moving, you know. And that was a chapter of your life, and now it's you figure out your shit, you look at what you need to fix or what you need to focus on, or even just what makes you happy in that moment, or in learning to just be happy with who you are outside of like everything you've kind of created to make your identity. And you're bringing up a point where I like drawing a lot, and you're like, you have to even like yourself if you've lost your arms and you couldn't draw anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Like, then because like, you sent me those videos about what's the fighter's name again?
Dominic Cruz.
Dominic Cruz. And he says, like, so many fighters get depressed because, like, you know, once they don't have fighting, they feel like they have nothing, so they just start drinking and just fucking up their life, you know? But they don't learn to love themselves just as an individual outside of fighting, you know? So it's like easier said than done, obviously, but it is an important concept for me to kind of grasp. It's like, you know what? I just need to like who I am. I'm in the moment. I can't stop the flow of time, so I can only take moment to moment, and things are going to happen, and you just got to accept it. It's not the end of the world, you know? So that was the first major revelation when you said that. It was the exact thing I needed to hear at that moment, that I was like, you know, fuck lying in bed and being upset. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna go fucking kill it, and then I'm gonna do the things I like later. And even if I don't want to do them, I'm just do something I enjoy. Like watch TV. It doesn't fucking matter in the moment. What was the second thing? Sorry.
Did you make a note?
I did make a note. Oh, and then like a breakup is nobody's fault, and that was a big one too. It's just like, you know, you can pick apart each side, and even if you feel like that person may have wronged you, or you wronged them, or you feel some sense of guilt, it's just like at the end it's nobody's fault. Like, there are a series of instances and days and moments that have led up to you and the other person realizing it just doesn't work, you know? And so, like, yeah, fucking hurts, but, you know, like, taking away that guilt on either side, like playing scenarios in your head, or being like, why the fuck did they do this? They shouldn't have done that when they could have just done this, or like, why did they have to say that? You know, like when they said this in the past, and you know that's hypocritical. It's conflicting with what they told me, and blah 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 blah. Like, it's just nobody's fault. This is just there's 7 fucking billion people in the world. There's probably more now, and then maybe not with COVID, but it's just like this happens all the time. It's nobody's fault. It's just that's how relationships go. They either last or they don't, and nothing lasts forever. Even if they last, you know, like that couple will die someday. If I have anything to do with it. And then the third thing is I put on some Wu-Tang Clan, and they ain't nothing to fuck with, and I pump myself up. Anyways, that was my spiel. That's why I said. I texted Curtis after the gym. I was like, you fucking cracked the code. Because, like, in the moment, I'm like, that was everything I needed to reset my brain to be like, yo, fuck you. You're a person outside of whatever past thing you had.
And part of that was because, you know, it's very common for when you're going through a breakup or when you've broken up freshly, like a lot of people, understandably, and I'm sure everybody's had this, like I've had this and whatever too, where you're like, okay, well now I'm free, so I'll show her a little bit, and also show myself, like I'm gonna become something, because I'm so hurt, but I'm gonna
I'll like the best success is, I mean, the best revenge is success, you know, that like, mentality.
Like I'll see how great I actually am without her, and I can succeed. But I mean, not that this is the reason not to, but you potentially set yourself up for, like, you know, sometimes you're just hurt after a relationship and you might not be that motivated, right? Like sometimes you might have just give yourself some time to like recover from that pain. And so if you're not as productive, if you're not in that mindset, you might be more disappointed in yourself if you set yourself up at these expectations of like, I'm gonna become amazing
Jeff
now.
Bezos now. Like,
yeah, but then let's say you take a week of like you're like binge drinking and doing other stupid shit or whatever, you're not really doing it, then you're gonna hit yourself even more because you're gonna be like, wow,
well,
like,
I didn't even meet that goal and I lost the person.
yeah, I lost my person and I'm a piece of shit, like, wow. And so it goes back to like, you know, the cliche stuff of like measuring yourself by these ambitions. But even more so, I was listening to, it's funny because, you know, you have like sort of a hint or like a direction of thoughts.
Yeah.
And then you somehow, through the internet and all the random serendipitous things, you find the people to kind of, this is almost the scary part of the internet, you find the people that kind of like match what you're thinking and like progress you forward in that train of thought. This hopefully I think is for the better. So like I was listening to a little bit of Alan Watts. Yeah, and it's funny because this comes from TikTok. There's that song Overthinker by Enzo or whatever, where he's like, a person who thinks about thoughts, something, he doesn't have any thoughts. He's not thinking about anything at all because all he's thinking about is thoughts. But that's kind of what got me into him. So I looked up some stuff of Alan Watts, what he says. And I don't believe everything he says necessarily. Like, I don't agree with all the things he says because some of it's a little wishy-washy and not fully, like, you know, I don't want to say rational, but just, you know, he's picking at things. It's very abstract.
Yeah.
But some of the things I definitely understand. So I guess this pulls from Taoism a little bit. And so, you know, when you think about, like, he was saying something about holding on to, so when you're talking about, you know, living in the moment, that comes from, I remember him saying something about you better let go of what you think you're trying to hold on to, whatever it is, a relationship, your goals, your self-worth, all these things, you better let go of it. Because in the end, there's nothing to hold on to in the first place. Like, you're not going to be able to hold on to these things. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Like, he was talking about
forcefully try to keep it.
Nothing will stay, right? Like for example, like so many examples. But, you know, I was ripping out the walls at the gym because we're going to make a new space there for MMA there.
That's a funny example.
And so it's because it used to be our staff room. It used to be our staff room there. And I was looking at the staff room. I'm like, I don't know. I had a lot of like memories there, kind of like it was like a nice place in the back away from work, and I could heat up my food there. It's like you take a minute to yourself away from you know work for a second, and then we're like ripping out the walls, and you're just like, fuck, that's never gonna be there anymore. Yeah. Like even when I moved out of my old place, you're like, it's still there. Like, I mean, people moved in, it's gonna look different, but it's still there. And so there's this, you know, humans, like you were saying, like have this false belief of like certain things are like not eternal, but to a certain extent, like my mom, you know, my mom will be there tomorrow. She was there yesterday, she's going to be there tomorrow. My mom will always be there until she's not. And then that's when you have that realization of like things are not eternal.
And society has created these frameworks to try to make things eternal. Like we're talking about marriage, for instance. And I'm not shitting on marriage.
Contracts.
But you create a contract because you're like, this way I have the guarantee that this person will stay. But then it's like society also created divorce because we know that doesn't work, you know, or like you become a widow. Like, you know, this sounds dark,
and so like the truth of that, and like you can check my Instagram, I put this cool quote up that I really am proud of. But that like time just moves forward unwaveringly. Like no matter how tightly you hold on to anything, everything will like erode. Like Achilles was saying this too. Like everything will erode, but things will grow, and it's just there's a constant, like just because something has been there, it's because it's constantly happening over and over. Like, you know, if you're with your girlfriend, you see her so often that it feels like, oh, this is gonna be a thing.
This
is
just the norm.
Yeah, this will just happen forever. I'll always see her every day.
Especially when you're that into a relationship, it's like they're part of me, you know, like this won't disappear, like, you know, but things change, personalities change, things come up, you know.
I think we like take for granted or / don't fully remember that life, every time you meet her, it's happening again. It's just happening again, but it doesn't always happen. It's not always going to happen. And so, you know, a lot of like he was saying this too, like anxiety and stress and worrying comes from the uncertainty of what's going to happen. So when I think about sparring, for example, when I spar someone who's like clearly I feel they're better than me, there's anxiety because I am uncertain about the future. Like, he's going to hit me, is he not? I don't know. I'm scared because I don't know what's gonna happen.
That hesitation. Yeah.
Whereas, you know, when you're sparring someone that's just not as good as you, I'm not even afraid at all because I'm like, I can handle whatever he throws at me, so the future doesn't scare me. The uncertainty is not worrying for me.
Yeah.
And so, but in that, like, there's this clip that I reposted. I don't know if anybody watched it because it did repost as a video. You had to click it to watch it. But anyway, so there's this coach with the noodle, like the pool noodle that you use in training, where you swing the noodle at the guy and he's supposed to dodge or block the noodle. I know it's karate or something. But anyway, he was like, the kid's like flinching as the guy's gonna hit the noodle at him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, don't trip out, like, don't flinch. And then he's like, don't react on the what if. Mm-hmm. Right? The problem, I don't know if this part applies, but he's like, the problem isn't the noodle, the problem is me. So basically he's saying, read the intents.
Yeah.
But his point is, don't be afraid of the what if. Like, don't be afraid of what you think is going to happen maybe. Because we're, you know, at this part of, like, pain and uncertainty and anxiety, that's what you're worrying about, is like, what's going to happen? Like, totally. what if your girlfriend starts seeing somebody, like, very soon after the breakup? Or what if you don't find or like, what if you're just worrying about these what if things, but there's no reality there.
And that's another thing, like, is playing scenarios in your head.
Yeah.
I've noticed that too, because I saw some stuff on Instagram that was also discussing, like, you know, stop running scenarios in your head, because, you know, they might not even happen. You're just creating anxiety for yourself you don't need.
Well, I think and the reason why your brain tries to do that, I think, is to prepare itself. Like, it's, you know, I listen to, like, a lot of, like, psychologists and neurologists on Joe Rogan sometimes, and then they're saying how, like, the brain is not wired for happiness. The brain is wired for survival, and anxiety, pain, and sadness brings about, like,
survival tactics.
Behavior that is survival, which is like, stay home and be sad and don't do anything or something. You know what I mean?
And running those scenarios in your head is like you said, preparing yourself for the potential.
Yeah, like, just be afraid of the outside so you stay inside and survive. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, but when it comes to, like, real life, so back to the sparring example, when I'm sparring someone, even if I think I'm gonna prepare, like, I know he's gonna throw his jab at me, so I'm ready to prepare myself for his jab, that when he does throw his jab, I'm gonna whatever. But when he actually throws his jab, I'm not like, I planned all the things that he said. He throws a punch and I react. I just react. Like, I didn't, as much as I try, and sometimes, of course, like, I'm like, I can see it intuitively, and then when he does throw the jab, I do it, and of course, there are those times. Yeah. But in that precise moment of when things happen, you kind of just react, like, you just move, like, like Alan Watts was saying that too in that thing I sent you, where he was like, you know, you plan and you prepare and you think and you analyze and you take up all the information, and you're always wondering, like, did I take up all the information that I could have? Did I analyze this problem as best as I could? Yeah. And then you think maybe you did, and then when you make a decision, it's actually not really based on all the information you took in. It's just a snap judgment. Because it's in that moment. You're just like, because I've noticed, I mean, I don't know if that's everybody, right? Like, obviously that's not applies to every single thing. Yeah. But I notice that happens a lot, right? Where, like, you think, you plan, and this, weigh the options, pros and cons. Yeah. And then when the time comes, you're just kind of like, left. You know what I mean? Like, right. Yeah. Like, you think you planned which one, and you think you know, but then sometimes you're not sure. And part of that, like, people that, you know, I think about, you know, I've seen the patterns, right, of, like, the Michael Jordan and the Bruce Lee and the Gary Vee and the Alan Watts, what he's saying and all that stuff, is letting go of that control. Like, you think
flow if like you water.
Yeah, but, like, you think if you take in all this information, you think if you worry and plan and, you know, be anxious about all these things,
you'll be prepared.
You will be prepared, and you will figure out the right way and the right decision. Right, but but this is where Gary Vee's thing applies. I think is what he's saying is, like, you won't know and you'll never know, and you'll just react and things will happen. And I think more importantly that leads to, like, you're not in control to a certain extent. No. Which actually is freeing. Is like, I'm not in control. Like, if I throw a punch at this guy or whatever, and he throws whatever, like, that whole interaction, it seems like I'm in control, right? Like, if I throw a punch, then he'll see it and he'll react based on. But to a certain extent, like, I'm not in control. I'm just reacting. Like I said, is if someone just throws a punch at me, I'm just gonna react. Yeah. I'm not fully in control of, like, how I think I am in control when he throws a punch. And so you have to let go of, like, the things that you think you're in control of, and let go of that reality. And so so when you relieve anxiousness, when you want to relieve that worryingness, that stress, and that anxiety, it is when you're fully confident and you're not worried about what's going to happen. Yeah. and you can live in that moment. It's like Bruce Lee being like water, right? You're just flowing. You know what I mean? You're just going with whatever happens, just happens. It's just, it's happening. It happens. Like, this might suck. And like, that's why also like emotionally, you know, I'm going through rough times, whatever. Sometimes I think it is useful to like give yourself a period of time to just feel it, because you're feeling it. You just feel it, and then you're good. And then you try to like, you know what I mean? Like,
story too. Like I literally just showed up in front of Kurt's house, and I just sat there for a second, and he could just see me in the window. I'm just like,
he was doing one of those like,
oh my god,
one of those.
And then I just hear Kurt yell, "Hey!" Hey, it's like he's catching me on my shit, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, yeah, I was just doing one of those things where I let myself feel bad for like 10 seconds.
I just thought it'd be funny. I was like, hey,
no, yeah.
Are you okay? Are you okay in there? Do you need something? Do you need help?
It was pretty funny, yeah. What help got me in here. That's another realization I had over the past month or so. Is like, I overthink everything. Most things are not as in depth as you think they are, or the way people react.
Yeah.
Or consider situations. Like, it could just be they're just being friendly to somebody, or saying hi, and you're in your brain. You're like, what if this means this and this and this and this, and it means they don't care, and blah 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 blah. Then you're like, you find. You get so anxious, and then if you do confront the person, it's almost like, yo, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, you know, this is just a regular situation. You know?
I think something that I always wanted, like, I try to work on with you is, like, I really think you should trust yourself more. Because,
totally.
Like, I mean, that sounds obvious, but I mean,
Totally.
even in so many levels, right? Like, in the sense of, okay, with that one example, is like, even if they misunderstand you, like, you should just trust that, like, you are a good person and your intent is good. So, like, even if he misjudges you, like, that's either on him, or eventually he'll figure out that you're not a bad person. And just because that's who you are, like, you just trust yourself because you're that person.
I had a moment like that today where I actually did trust myself for once.
Yay.
So I had a client get mad at me because of some shit happened. It was like a miscommunication, but they literally called me and they were like mad at me, and I just kind of was like, okay, you know, I accepted it, and I didn't let it bother me, because it's like, you know what, I know I didn't mean to do anything wrong here. And then I get an email from them later apologizing, blah blah, I'm so sorry, I was like, I felt so rude, I'm just going through all this and blah blah blah. Like, they overthought, and I didn't for once in this situation, and I was like, yeah, okay, well, I feel right, and you know, like, I know this doesn't affect my life, so I was like, yeah, I don't care, like, I'm not worried, you know.
And I think, like, so another application for that like, in your pursuit of, like, these ambitions of, like, being a I talked to you about this a lot, comic book artist and all those things, like, those types of endeavors, is that I think if you did give yourself, like, a reasonable amount of time, because you've been pretty, like, worked hard lately, you know, lots of work, lots of stress, lots of things going on. Because I just remember, because you tell me, and I totally get this, like, because I'm the same way to a certain extent, but I've changed now. Is that, you know, if you feel like if you did take too much time off, like, you might just not work on your ambitions. But I think you would.
I know I would. It's just like having that consistency a lot is always key for me, because then I come back and I'm like not as good at this thing, or it's like takes me longer, or it's just like. But at the same time, that's me being hard on myself. And
I think if you were truly, like, that was the thing you wanted to do, I think you would inevitably get back to it anyway. Even if you, like, take a month or two off, even a year off, and you're rusty, like, you would get back to it, because that was the thing you wanted to do eventually anyway. Otherwise, you have to, you know, question whether that is the thing you actually want to do, or something in the way, or whatever. But in general, I think that's what I found with myself. Like, we talked about this so many times in, like, 3 or 4 other podcasts, but letting go of the things that I thought I wanted, like with GMV, we were so like, this is what I want this, I was working towards that. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, except potentially, like, setting yourself up for disappointment if you work so hard and you don't get that thing that you think you want. But, you know, there's
that saying though, like, aim for the stars and you land on a cloud too, like.
Yeah, but that's that. I don't even believe that necessarily, because then it's like, you know, I'm gonna aim so high, and then you're just gonna settle at that thing. It's like, I guess it depends on how you use that. Some people believe that and they're totally happy, but I just don't like setting yourself up for, like, being disappointed in yourself, or never being content with where you are, because you're like, oh, I just always striving for greatness, always gonna keep striving, which is fine.
You definitely need that balance.
There's something to, like there's a difference between never being content with yourself like period, and you're like, I'm just a piece of shit until I'm not, but then you never are because you're always searching perfection.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and like you love the journey of grinding yourself to perfection. Like you love the journey to perfection. Yeah. Like I get better, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. That's sick. I'm getting better, I'm getting even better. I just want to get better. I want to be the best. I want to be the best, so I'm going to keep getting better. No, and like that grind of that journey in itself is fun for you.
Like there's people I respect online. Like I've talked about Mega 64, their YouTube group. They've had people ask them like, you know, how far did you think this would go? And like some of them have different answers. But one guy's like, I thought we'd be bigger. Like, you know, like I thought we'd be working on TV shows and movies and like, you know, getting deals to make stuff. But he's like, but also we have like a very diehard fan base. We've been going for 17 years. Like most people that started when we started are gone now. You know, it's just like we've worked with all these big like CEOs of companies and all this stuff. It's like when you actually look at it, it's like we've done a lot to be proud of. And he's like, but my set goal in my head when we started was like way higher. But like he's always been like just trying to do better and better too. Like in that mindset, it's like I've always just been trying to do better than the last thing we did, you know, which that's the healthy part. But like he acknowledges like, you know, I thought we'd be bigger, but also like, you know, having the conscious thought enough, conscious like
ambition
or view of just like knowing like I had a bigger like goal, but like maybe that's not realistic, and where we're at is like totally great.
Oh, like the awareness of that.
Yeah, exactly. The awareness.
Because I think I found too, like I'm at the early stages of this too, and then this goes back to, this is funny because you mentioned that. I think all these people at the apex of their success, so it's kind of like there's two people I want to talk about. There's the people that are like kind of in their apex of in the flow and like success, but not necessarily like tangible success that people mostly go for, like X amount of money, successful business, whatever. I mean success in that they're happy in what they're doing. The other type of person is the person that they're successful by the tangible things, but I don't know if they're completely happy.
The shopping list of things you could say at dinner.
Yeah, and so like they're like, so if you take YouTube for example, you know, I see a lot of YouTubers that are using, they're teaching or showing the tactics of how to win on YouTube because they think that the goal is to get X amount of subscribers and monetize. And so they're like, okay, to monetize and to get subscribers, you should niche. So you use the tactic of niching and no.
Yeah.
But that path, I'm not saying is the wrong path. I just think it leads to not necessarily being at the apex of your happiness and in the flow. You will get the subscribers and you'll get that niche and you'll be able to monetize and get those things.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you're actually doing physically every day when you wake up and go to your computer to edit a video, I don't know if that's the most exciting, happy thing that you would want to be doing, right? Like, I don't know. It could be, right? But it just seems if you're putting the subscribers and the money monetizing, whatever, at the top of it, a lot of people get there by using these tactics.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
They're not happy,
they're successful in what they thought they wanted.
Metrics,
But I don't know if they found their actual happiness of like, you can't, I don't know if I can see like the passion of like they're excited, like you said, Mega 64 is to like get up and do the video that they wanted to make.
Exactly.
Right. And
so that's the thing they bring up all the time is like, you know, there's YouTubers that are way bigger than us, like millions of subscribers more than them. Yeah. But they get to make whatever they want and they still are supported. You know, like if they decide to make a 30-minute video,
which should be the goal.
Exactly.
Right.
So like they're like, we're super grateful
like
for
lucky
that.
to just to just like, wake up, make whatever
it's like, hey, this week we want to do this kind of video, you know, like it doesn't matter, no one's expecting like a specific one set thing.
And so I found conveniently that like ironically, or maybe not, maybe this is the way, and this is what I believe, is that you see the people that, you know, like we always talk about this and I feel like it's underrated and also like overlooked very much so, especially by those who are impatient, often by like we've also felt that impatience and overlooked this for sure, is letting go of that potential thing that you want, but just being in that moment of like, what do you want to do right now, right? And so like the people that go viral, the people that grow are the people that when you ask them, they're like, nah, I never really thought,
I didn't plan for this to happen, you
like
know,
Rooster Teeth with Red versus Blue, you could tell when you watched it they didn't plan to be this big corporation
owned by Warner Brothers at this point.
Yeah, right. They just were like a bunch of dudes making some funny videos.
Yeah,
and that's
maybe other people like it. Yeah.
And that's where and this is where Gary always says like this is where it starts, and he's like just keep doing that, because usually what happens is they'll do whatever they want just for fun. It's just for fun. There's no
Yeah.
ambitions, and then they get big, and they're like, okay, shit. Now what do? I should take this seriously.
Yeah.
Whereas what got them there in the first place was just like, fucking video, like,
Yeah, like-
fucking stupid shit.
Yeah.
Right? So they think that they need to, like, apply, like, okay, now we have to look at YouTube metrics and, like, you know, SEO and, like, all these tactics to, like, stay in a niche and whatever, because they're like, okay, now I'm big, now it's serious, now this is my livelihood.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, you see all these videos where, like, one video recently that Team Gary Vee posted, I think, they were like, he was telling a girl to, like, not monetize now. Like, she was monetizing, and she was like, okay, I'm getting kind of stressed out now, because I don't know if I want to make the all this stuff, right? And he's like, okay, stop monetizing now, because you're quickly going to fall down this path where you're going to be making stuff just because you're trying to support yourself, but now it's just work now. Now it's not for fun.
Now
it's just
a job, yeah.
right? And so part of that, I think, going back to what I'm thinking of with all this stuff, and it's such a, like, journey from like Nig Nag to, like, GMV to, like, or even before that, before I didn't even know what I wanted to do.
These are old YouTube channels.
Yeah, all this stuff I've worked on, if you guys want to look up all the stuff we worked on. But anyway,
just look up GMV.
it's okay.
Well, and your own stuff.
All my journey of, like, finding myself and being a creator and doing the things I want to do is, like, you know, letting go of, like, those things that you think you want, like, you want these things so badly, but letting go, because it's like, again, like, part of that's like you're not in control of these things. And so many of these, like, successful, at the people I'm saying at the apex of their success, they didn't really like, they, even if they did have, like, the plan, I want this thing, along the way, like, it changed and became, like, at the beginning, if you ask them what they thought at the beginning, it's always different from where they are now. They're like, I thought we were going to be X, Y, and Z. Now we're, like, fucking some other shit. Like, totally some other thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not exactly what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But again, that comes from them letting go of, and just letting themselves move and do things. So, like, I remember an example of this that I thought of off the top of my head was, like, you know, in the movie, I don't know if you guys have watched Marley and Me with Owen Wilson.
Sad movie, man.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
So sad.
It's good because it has, it's like a good commentary on
It
life,
is,
and, like, you know. So he's a, not a journalist, but, like, something like that. He writes for a newspaper.
Okay.
And he has a column where he's, like, opinion. He writes, like, I guess he writes the kind of a little bit fluffy stuff in his opinion, like, more opinionated stuff, or something like that.
Opinion piece.
I think so. And then, but he wants to have, like, he wants to move to be, like, a real, like, more serious, like, be, like, a more
investigative
editor or whatever.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I don't know. He wants to move and write more serious pieces or something like that.
As to say, wow.
I could be wrong, but something like that. And then you know, throughout the movie, you know, because Marley and Me is, like, a story about this guy and his life and his dog and his family and, like, just life over a long period of time. So he's that, and then eventually he gets that job, like, he gets promoted, and he gets to have that you know, whatever, like, serious writing piece, article guy, whatever.
Yeah.
And then near the end, he's like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna. He actually doesn't like it as much as he thought. He goes back to having his opinion piece, like, back to where he was before, because he realized, like, okay, well, now I know what that is, but I think I liked what I had before.
Yeah.
And so, like, the quote that I had on my Instagram was something like, "Let go of what you wanted because you can't hold on to anything." One. And two, somewhere in the process of letting go of the things that you wanted, you will find what you want because you let go. But what you wanted might not be what you thought it was. And that goes for both things. The thing you originally wanted might actually, when you get there, it's like, oh, this isn't what I wanted, maybe.
This isn't,
and it also means, like, the thing that you do want now is not what you thought you wanted at the beginning. You know, what you wanted has changed now. Now you're like,
totally.
okay, now I actually was wrong. I actually think now at this point, you know, however many years later, you're like, I think I want something else. I think I was, you know, I wanted that back then. Now I'm here and I'm, you know, I think I want something else.
Like, if you look in the past, I mean, you can look at our own videos and stuff from the past, but even, like, I remember I'm so into music and stuff, and then I was like, after a while, I was like, this isn't as much for me. Like, I still dabble in it with friends, but it's just like, this isn't my diehard thing anymore. It's not like what I truly want. Or, like, if you look at, like, a lot of people watching this, you know, probably friends of ours at the moment, you might not even realize.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. You might not even realize, like, we made 2 seasons of a sitcom, and at one point we thought we wanted to do that. And then we did, like, a gaming show where we were drinking and making jokes and making rules and just, like, just all sitting on a couch just being friends, but we thought we wanted that. And then we've also done skits. We thought we wanted that shit, or vlogs, etc. And it's not like we won't ever do any of that stuff again. It'll be like just when we feel like it. But like,
Well, you could wake up
have
tomorrow.
thought we wanted things in the past.
Yeah.
Like, even just with videos, like
Yeah,
you know,
and but you can always like revisit things
Totally,
too. Like
yeah.
it's just life is so
like we were talking about revisiting that show. I was
seeing
talking
double,
about Seeing
yeah.
Double. Like,
But I'm saying tomorrow you could just want to make a song and then not
True,
make a song
yeah,
for
no.
another 10 years, but then make a full album. Like you don't know
Yeah.
where life is gonna take you,
Totally.
and that's where it's kind of like
you end up like Andre 3000 and he records the whole album, doesn't release it. Sorry, I'm
yeah.
getting jaded.
No, you should put your shit out. I'm that guy. You know what? I have to.
Andre.
It's so funny because I'm that guy. Whenever I
You
talk
went
to
out on
people,
top though.
whenever I talk to people about like whatever, you know what's weird? It's not that weird, but I'm still sort of surprised at how common this is that so many people actually do want to put stuff out. I think like deep inside they actually
So
do.
many people want a fucking side thing.
They want
or
a
a
side
hobby
thing,
or,
obviously, but it's also because that's more of an expression of who they are. Like it sounds,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like your own thing, right? But in terms of like specifically, I'm talking about like content, like putting stuff out about you, and like it's because
Yeah.
when you see it, it's so like that guy's just himself, like putting a vlog out or putting out whatever.
And you see
right?
people who do it disingenuously.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like I followed an Instagram account.
we always get into that, the disingenuous.
I
people,
know. I'm just
obviously,
like I
'cause
follow an
it's so
Instagram.
common.
Sorry, there's something in my eye. I follow an Instagram account, and it's called Girls with Irrelevant Captions, and more often than not, it's just like it's a girl posing. It's like a thirst trap picture, but it'll be like, you know, don't let people judge you for who you are, society, blah blah. It's just like all this shit, and it's like it doesn't matter how you look or all these things, but it's like you're posing like.
Or like Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
Yeah, but
sorry,
I mean,
maybe I took it off topic there.
no,
but,
I mean it's because I feel like everybody talks about.
but everybody wants to be that,
Well, okay.
or like they want to put that side out. Some not every.
So there's
I'm talking too generally.
you're either like doing it for them or you're not. You know what I mean? And
Agreed. Yeah.
and that's kind of what you're talking about.
Like they're
to
doing
a
it
certain
for
extent.
what they think other people would. Like.
Yeah, I mean, for them,
themselves.
for that specific one that you just mentioned, I think is a mix of things, right? Like, there's a very common like people want like they're both. They're like they want to get the likes because that's why they put a pretty picture up.
Yeah.
But then they also want to say what they want to say, so they try to do both in one post or whatever.
Yeah.
But because they're afraid potentially of putting out what they want, but it not getting the likes and the attention, which everybody struggles with that. Like I do too sometimes. Like when I put something out, sometimes I'm like, oh, is people gonna care about this or whatever?
Yeah.
But again, like one, you don't have control over that. Going back to our theme today,
Yeah.
if you don't have control,
No.
right? But also like. I think it is. People are so allured. We talked about this already. People are so allured by like you just not caring about whatever they think, like just being themselves. And I remember I brought. There's so many examples. Like the one I brought up before was it American Hustle or whatever, where Christian Bale is just sitting there. He's playing like a fat bald character, and then the girl's describing him, and then. He's just in the scene. He's just like listening to music, and he's just like he's just like all slouched out, his guts hanging out, and he's like has a cigar, and he's just like he just looks kind of like, out of shape and kind of gross, but he's vibing to the music, and she's describing him. She's like he wasn't he was kind of overweight, and he wasn't super clean or whatever. Like she's describing the gross part, she's like, but there was something about him like. He just didn't care. Like, there's something where he just didn't care. Which goes back to, like, if you want to look up Keith Apicary, who Zach brought up for me.
introduced to you.
Yeah.
This guy is, he plays a character. He's, like, kind of like one of those, like,
So his character is Keith Apicary.
His real name, he's an actor. His name's Nathan Barnett. He's actually been in, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's been in Flow Rida videos. He's been in, like, I think he might have been in Porter Robinson's videos. He's been in, like, Yell, like, all these big artists. And he's been in, like, shows. He was on, like, I just saw him on Instagram the other day, and he was hanging out with Steve-O from like Jackass. Like they were just hanging out, and it's like, but this guy, he has a character. It's called Keith Apicary, and he's just like this very cocky, like stereotypical looking nerd.
Yeah, like he's bald. He has like the
He's got
side.
the thick glasses.
He wears like the
he has,
cassette
like, a lisp.
tape.
Yeah, he always has like
Tucks
old
his
technology.
shirt in.
Yeah, exactly. But this
Talks
guy,
like ish.
this guy never breaks character. He doesn't care, and like. There's like a Flow Rida video you can actually watch. I don't remember what the song's called.
Doesn't matter. Just Keith Apicary Flow Rida.
And in the video, they got live footage of him in the club.
Yeah.
And he's a good dancer actually, but he's just dancing.
Like dorky dancing.
And like they see all these girls and they're like obviously dressed for the club, and like some of them are like, oh, but then others are like really fucking into him because he just clearly gives zero shits.
Because it starts like
all.
with you, like he's the type of guy like if you saw him at the mall,
You'd be like, oh god.
the first second you're like, okay, I need to stay away from this guy.
Yeah.
He's fucking weird. It's gonna be a scene. He's weird. It's the kind of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually, like again at the club, for example, like you know everybody at first when you see this guy, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna stay away from this guy. He's fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually he just dances and he's just doing his thing, and then eventually the girls are like, yeah, this guy, like, he doesn't care, he's just dancing, like, he's harmless because he's just doing what he wants, he's just him.
And then people like, he's like the life of the party then, and people like love him.
Right.
And even the actual actor, like behind the character, Nathan Barnett, like he's always happy because he's like, he always says this line. He's like, I know I'm only here on Earth for a certain amount of time, and I know you only have a certain amount of time to leave your mark and like show what you like doing and stuff. And he's like, so I just keep doing it. I don't stop working because like this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And even him, like, you know, a lot of people, like, if you were like middle aged, you don't have a wife or kids, blah blah blah, you're bald. Like he doesn't care about that stuff. He's like, all I care about is making stuff, and he's like, and I'm thankful I'm bald because it literally gave me a career. You know, like shit like that. You know, he like looked at the bright side of everything, and like at one point he had like his ex-girlfriend on the stream, and she was like, you know, like they're talking about openly about like, you know, breaking up, but they're still friends because he didn't even it didn't even seem like he let that like phase him, like that they're broken up. He was still like just nice with her, and they're still friends, and like, you know, it's just like, this guy is so inspirational to me. Just like,
he is to me too, man.
Because I'm just like, holy shit, like this is somebody living just as themselves so genuinely.
Yeah,
and he has no like vindictiveness, no jadedness to him. It's just like, you know, always going with the flow, and he is exactly who he is. He has so many dance videos where he's just in public, like literally dancing, and people like are like, who the fuck is this guy? But then also they're like, oh, this is amazing, and like,
I think like part of going back to this theme again of like time and flowing, and I think what holds people back a lot from that is like that thought of like, there is this past, and there's how might I look in the future, and like, who was I, and what are people gonna see in me? Like, I brought that up in the last podcast of like, there's these two guys that I was thinking about just off the top of my head, like from elementary school that I've talked to now. Fucking, I'm 27. Think about elementary school is like 20 years ago. And they're still like, I remember, like, they're like, when they're talking to me, they're like, I know I was like a goof in elementary school, like I remember, but like now I do this or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you know, like elementary school was like 20 years ago. Like, you don't have to be beholden
He's like
to
almost
like
apologizing for how he was in the past.
Yeah, like it's just like, dude, you're 20. We're 20 fucking 7, dude. Like, elementary school, like so much time has passed.
I'm not the same person, you know?
But like that framework is so ingrained like in their like being of who they think they are. Maybe not even necessarily to themselves, but they're afraid of like what I might think of them when I see them because I'm from elementary school. I'll be like, oh, you're that guy from, I remember you. And then they immediately go back to like, oh yeah, I was that guy in elementary school. This is probably what he thought of me at elementary school. And so like, I think that switch, like to me, it's a switch. Like that's a really important thing. It's literally like, I say this to so many people, like so many people that like talk to me about like, yeah, you know, I want to start a podcast. I want to put out stuff. You're right. They're always like, you're right. They're like on board, but it really is jumping off a diving board every time. It's not like you've jumped now and maybe it becomes easier, obviously, but every time like I post something, there is always like am I going to do it? Am I gonna do it? You know, when you're standing at the edge of the diving board, you're like, "Am I gonna do it?"
Yeah, like it's easier not to.
And then it's easier not to, but you get better. You get better at like, do it, just do it, just do it. Like, do it. Close your eyes. Just go.
And when you're finally in that mindset, it's like you're always going for a touchdown. You're never gonna get. Like, you'll never get to the end zone, but you got to keep running because you're just getting further and further and like progressing and like.
Well, I'm talking about the people that are just
you're talking about the people
at the very beginning.
You're talking about the people who
haven't jumped first, haven't even jumped once,
whether or not they are gonna do it. But once you get into that mindset of like, okay, I'm doing it, you don't even ever get it. You know, you just have to keep going for it. Like, there's no like, oh, I got a fucking touchdown, I did it, life's over, I'm the greatest person on earth. You know.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like specifically about. Just like being able to post something is such a difficult thing for people.
There's a wall.
Because there's so many people that are like, they always ask me like, how did you do? What app did you use? How did you
like that stuff will make it for them or crack the code or whatever.
Yeah, like because they like it's the same thing as
equipment.
It's the same thing as us when if we were to like look up people we admire and how they got there. Like when Gary's like, oh, I was 30. I'm like, he was 32 when he left Wine Library, which means he worked this much time specifically. So he spent these many years working on this, which means if I spend this many years like same thing with drawing, right? I'm like, okay, if I spend 1 year on the basics of drawing, then I should have a basis of this.
By year 3, I should be able to.
Exactly, right? Yeah, so it's gathering this knowledge, especially with the internet not helping because there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
You're trying to gather as much information as you possibly can. So you can like, okay, now I can make an informed decision and I can act with the most information possible because I know the fundamentals of drawing are, anatomy and perspective and that. So now that I know that, I can move way more efficiently. When really that has nothing to do with anything. The
answer is in this circumstance, draw what you like.
Yeah, or what it's like, are you drawing or not? Like, are you doing it or not? That's it.
Draw or not? Or, yeah.
And so like with anybody, like when it comes to like you want to make a podcast, you want to put out content and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's very like you can sit there like everybody else does, like literally everybody. It's funny because everybody turns it into like a character type thing. It's like, well, I'm just the kind of person that likes
they're already
fancier content
in this framework,
or like when they watch our content or somebody else's content, they'll be like, if I did it, it would look like this, it would look better, or it would look like this. And it's like, but like I put out like 80 videos, you put out nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what do you?
I've had to catch myself before with like you mentioned the equipment thing before, because I'm like, I could do this piece of equipment. Then I'm like, no, like you just fucking do it. Like I have this now. I can do whatever I can.
And this goes into like, and this maybe is I should remember this for the next podcast.
Yeah.
But it's that like I read that book Art and Fear, and that's a really important book because they're like, and it sounds so obvious.
Yeah.
But like at the beginning before you start, you have the idea. And it's so like beautiful, like it's so like the perfection. It's gonna be great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And then but the second you start on it, it's doomed to not be as good as what you had in your head. It's just that's just the nature of.
And when it's a project, art. Whatever you're picturing in your head is like, A, probably not what you'll ever reach, or B, it's like not what you're gonna achieve until like 10 years in. Like, I'm going to animation school and I'm already thinking about my final project and I have a picture in my head, but I'm also like consciously being like, okay, it's going to be very tough and it likely won't look exactly how it looks in your head. But, like...
I mean, and a couple of things, like it changes as you do it.
Totally, yeah.
Right?
I find that it's not even the thing you want to do.
Yeah, and then... Yeah, I'm trying to bring the theme back. And then, what else was I going to say? And then as
Crack
you...
the code, Kurt.
As you, like... As you make it, like... It has less and less likelihood to be like perfect because like when it's in your head, it's perfection. You can mold it to whatever perfection because there's nothing there, right? But once you make decisions like I'm gonna kill this character in the story or he's gonna go from here to there, it means by default if you kill this character, he is not alive anymore, which means going forward the potentiality of that story going this way, it's not that way. So like more things are set in stone now, right? Which is why a lot of things are at the end is kind of rough because sometimes they didn't get to tie it together properly because they were going with the flow and whatever.
Yeah.
And so like when you actually make something, it is inevitably doomed to not be as good as you think it was going to be like in your head.
Yeah.
And so like part of that, you just have to let go of that. Like you have to let go of like it even being, it's almost like, I try to push so far in the other direction, which is why I made that other post about like your thing isn't a reflection of you because I don't want you to get too tied to it because then when you put it out you're going to be like, oh, this reflects on me and it's shitty, it's not as good as I wanted it to be, so it's going to reflect on me and make me feel like I'm shitty because I'm not that good and it's not that good, but it's not. And so like you also have to let go of like it even being good to a certain extent. Like when I post stuff sometimes I'm like I almost try like I think I've almost turned that part off. Is like, I'm as much as I think it's good sometimes for it to be good like to other people and what they care about, whatever, like I just let go of like this could totally be shitty. Like so many things that I've posted that I thought were gonna be the thing are not the thing. Like people don't like them as much. But then the things that I don't even care about and I frivolously put out without any thought sometimes I do better than other things.
Yeah,
and so like
weird how that works.
When I make something, I'm almost fully removed from like, is this good? I don't know if it's good or not. I just whatever.
To build off, like there's a comic artist named Scott Kurtz. He's like known as the first webcomic artist. So the first person to put comics online, and he's 10 years down the line, he's making a book, then it's like an anthology of all his shit. And he's like, I'm having to go through all these old pages, and he's like, I'm looking at all of it, and there's continuity errors, there's like mistakes, there's storylines that completely dropped, there's like character details that no longer exist, there's like the design changes, and he's like, they're like real people, they're flawed, they're like, like, he's like, I always made like 20 strips to comic strips when I wanted to start, and then I would be like, I kind of like how I draw this person on the 20th strip, like I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna redo all of them, and now with that character looking like that. And then he's like, I would never put it out. I would never send it in to like a submission back in the day when you would send it into like a publisher. He's like, I would never do that until I just got this gig online. And they're like, hey, post 3 strips a week or however many, 5 strips a week. And he's like, until I had that and I didn't give a shit, like I got started because I stopped caring. And he's like, he's even talking to us like, at one point I even told my wife, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not the comic idea I wanted to do, but she's like, but this is the one that people like, and this is like the furthest you've gone, and like, you're like, it's flawed, but it's working like for you, like, and then he's like, I took a week off. I told my audience like I'm gonna do some changes and we're gonna revamp, and he's like, I came back and I turned it into the thing I liked, even though it didn't start out that way, because I didn't plan for this to grow, I didn't plan for this to get popular. But and like some of that like mindset is a little iffy, I'm sure. But it's just kind of like him being able to reflect on, here's 10 years of my work. There's so many flaws. It's not perfect. It's not exactly at all what I had in my head or planned to do. But I have this thing, and it's like a real person, and it's got so much value for that, Like the thing you're doing, you kind of just have to start and do it, and enjoy it, like, But it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly what's in your head.
Yeah, and I think the thing that stops so many people is not like the ability, like it's not like you don't have the tools or you don't have the resources or you don't, it's not even like you don't have the confidence, because there's tons of things that I do that I don't feel like I have the confidence for either, but you just do them, like you just do them. It's just doing it. It's just, but it's not a build up. Everybody thinks it's a build up. It's like, yeah, when I'm ready, when I have this, when I have the confidence, when I have the whatever, the equipment and all, they think it's a buildup. Like I'm slowly gonna get there next year, next time. Yeah. Once I'm there, once I'm ready, I'll do it. I'm just give me a second. I'm ready. Wait till I'm ready. I'll be ready soon. You know what I mean? Like there's guys where you see that, like just give me a second, just give me a second, just give me a second. You know what I mean? That's what they're telling me.
Yeah.
It's not that though. It's jump or don't. You know what I mean? That's what you at the diving board. Yeah. You're like, just hold on. I'm just gonna. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. And it's like, no, you just go. You just gotta jump, and the jump's not. It might not be very like elegant, right? When you jump off the diving board, because you're gonna be, dude. Yeah, you might be tripping and you might whatever, but like you jump.
You might jump and the titty flies out from your bikini, and everyone's like laughing at you, but you can't care.
But you jumped.
We jumped. That's what matters.
That's what's important.
And who cares if they saw your titty?
So jump. No, don't jump. Don't jump. Don't jump, but jump. You see what I'm saying? Don't jump. See, he's doing it. But like jump. You know what I'm saying? Like don't, like Zach, don't jump. Don't. But like you gotta jump.
Talk me off the ledge.
Exactly.
But jump. Yeah, no, I don't know. I think
was that good for today?
That was good for today. I think
that was a lot of stuff there.
That was a lot of revelations at once, and you
feel better?
I do. I think that for so much of our lives, we're so afraid of change when we got to keep like accepting change. Like not everything's going to be the same. You're going to wake up one day and that person might not be there. Like I used to play this game, and I know a lot of people who have had pets play this game. You're kind of like, oh, I love this thing so much, but one day it's going to die. And you start feeling sad. You keep thinking about it, like, oh my God, they're going to die. I'm going to be so sad. But it's like, you just got to enjoy all the moments you have with your pet, like, it might be cut short. It might go longer than you think. But at least you have this thing in the moment and just enjoy that moment. And that's kind of like back to our lives, like going literally full circle, literally live moment to moment, because that's what you get. You can't go back to the past and pull that person out and be like, you still gotta love me, or like you're back alive, you're in my life again, or like, be my friend again, or I wanted that job back, or I wish like it fucking shoulda, coulda, woulda, bitch. I'm just kidding. But, I am happy that I'm very much so putting effort into adopting this mindset. Because, like, I could be, like, when I got that ticket from the cop, I let myself get, like, pretty down, but now it's just like, yo, that's fucking life. Everybody I know, like, a lot of people get a ticket at some point, you know?
Yeah.
And then the goal is obviously to not get a lot of tickets. But, shit is gonna happen. It doesn't affect, hey, I guess I can't work anymore. This means I'll never find love. This means, like, you know, I'm gonna lose everything in my life, you know? It's just like, okay, I got a ticket, I gotta deal with it, and shit's gonna happen. We'll see, you know? So take it day by day.
Yeah.
No one's gonna love you forever.
You won't be here forever, so.
I won't.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's later rather than sooner. Where's the wood? I got enough of it. Do you have little quirks like that where you're like kind of superstitious?
I do have.
I have the
quirks
knock
like
on
that
wood
sometimes.
thing. That's my, like, when I say something, like, especially when it involves like death, I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure that's not coming true. Like, you know, I do that a lot.
I'm sure I do too. I can't
Or do
believe
people
it.
do, like, I noticed, like, this happened more when I was younger, but you would make, like, bets with yourself. Kind of like, if I don't make this basket, then that, if, like, it means this person's gonna leave me. Or, like, this is gonna happen, I'm not gonna get this thing, or, you know, like.
Weirdly, like, I used to do that a lot, but, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't do it anymore as much.
I haven't. I don't think I coached myself out of it, but
Yeah.
I do it way less than I used to.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to go on this topic. But anyways. Yeah. Stop overthinking. Life's gonna fucking change. You're living in the moment. Not everything's forever.
Let go.
Let go.
Just let go. I
let
always
it
think
go.
about that moment in Fight Club where they're driving the car.
Let
Do you
it
know what I'm
go.
talking about?
Yeah.
Where he's trying to control the car and he's like, just let go. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, let go. And he's just yelling at him to let go. And then obviously that ends in them crashing the car. But that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying you gotta let go of control of life sometimes because you don't have that much control, right? And this is where
You have control and not be in control.
Yeah, I mean, this is for a very specific thing. Like, there's certain times to apply this.
Yeah.
But things like this, right? When there's things, I mean, there's that almost religious quote that we were talking about where it's like, if I can, like, may God give me the strength to, like, recognize the things that I can control and the things are not in my control. I don't know how the quote goes, but it's something like that.
I know what you're talking about.
Right? And I think that's such an important point of, like, there's things that are in control, there's things that aren't, right? It's kind of like if I were to go into, like, you know, a pro fight or whatever, like if I were to take a competitive match, it's like you do all this preparation and a lot of that is in your control, but on the night of the fight, to a certain extent, you're not really in control because, like, all the preparation, your autopilot, how you're going to react, a lot of that's
Fighting especially.
Yeah, like, it's very difficult to, like...
You're prepping for months, and then you get in that ring, and then it'll just be like,
Yeah, like,
fuck.
you just have to... And that's what GSP says, is, like, it's autopilot. When you're actually fighting, it's autopilot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, like, a lot of that, I think, applies to
Life
certain situations when you're under certain, like, stresses and pressures in life. Is like you kind of just have to let it happen. Like, whatever happens is going to happen.
Oh, I forgot
You know
the
what I mean?
6th thing on the list. Protect your neck. By Wu-Tang Clan.
Right.
But yeah, it was a pretty good discussion.
Yeah, well,
I hope it helped you guys because it's been helping me.
all the people that you know, like, are watching and stuff like that, I appreciate that. I think they see it more in the clips, but I think I'm doing a good job with the clipping. I think we're doing a good job with the clipping.
I did one clip so far.
We're gonna have.
I'm gonna do more.
We're gonna have that picture coming up. Zach's making that picture, so I'm looking forward to that for us on the couch where I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I did that picture.
Yeah,
That's
like,
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that was a picture. Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody.
We'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
Recent revelations.
Oh, I should go. Fucking my legs aren't.